The most beautiful thing I ever created was a mistake I couldn't erase. We treat our lives like a social media feed, curated, filtered, and ready for deletion at the first sign of a flaw. But what if our happiness is hidden in the one post we're too ashamed to publish? You know this feeling. You spend 3 hours on a project presentation. It's nearly done. Then you spot one tiny formatting error, a single bullet point out of alignment, and you can't let it go. You scrap the entire thing and start over, wasting the night, because someone might notice. You go on a trip, a day you've waited for months. You take dozens of photos, capturing genuine moments of joy. But later, you scroll through them and delete almost all. Your smile wasn't perfect. Your hair was out of place. You traded a real memory for an illusion of one. You have an idea for a new hobby, painting, or learning the guitar, or starting a side project. But you never begin. You're terrified you won't be naturally excellent at it. So you consume content about it instead, watching others do it perfectly while you do nothing at all. So what do? We try harder. We buy the next productivity app. We binge watch, get motivated. Videos. We try to emulate someone else's perfect morning routine. It doesn't work. It can't. You're just putting a perfect patch on a broken mindset. The core belief, I am not enough, remains untouched. The pursuit of perfection is a race with no finish line. It just drains your energy and kills the joy in the things you once loved. If you're tired of fighting a war you can't win, hit subscribe. And in the comments, I want you to answer this. What is one flaw you've been trying to hide your entire life? Today I'm going to show you a 3-part system, an ancient method that will reframe your entire relationship with perfection. A method that doesn't require you to be better, but to see differently. And to show you how it works, I want to tell you the story of a woman whose entire career depended on being perfect. Until one day, her own body betrayed her. The system is called Wabi-Sabi. It's a Japanese worldview, the secret heart of their culture, found in their cracked tea bowls and moss-covered garden stones. In its essence, Wabi-Sabi is the art of finding beauty in things that are imperfect, impermanent, and incomplete. It recognizes that cracks, rust, and asymmetry are not faults. They are evidence of a life lived. We believe beauty is symmetry, newness, and flawlessness. Wabi-Sabi teaches that true beauty is asymmetry, authenticity, and the marks of time. Its principles can be broken down into 3 actions: embrace the crack, seek the patina, let go, let live. This is where Lena comes in. Lena was 32, a tattoo artist. She was $65,000 in debt from art school and was desperately saving for a down payment on her own studio. She worked 14-hour days, 7 days a week, in a rented booth at a trendy tattoo parlor. She wanted to be a renowned artist, a creator of what she called flawless art. What stopped her was her own crippling perfectionism. She would spend hours on designs, rework tattoos for free if a single line was a millimeter off, and lived in a constant state of low-grade anxiety, her shoulders always tense. Then came the incident. Her client was an influencer with 2 million followers. He wanted a complex, geometric full-back piece. It was a huge opportunity. 4 hours into the session, Lena was deep in concentration. Her back, stiff from years of hunching over, was a familiar ache she ignored. Then, without warning, a seizing spasm shot through her muscles. Her hand, holding the vibrating machine, jerked violently. A single, dark, rogue line shot out from the intricate pattern. It was permanent. It was glaring. It ruined the entire symmetry of the design. The buzzing needle stopped. Lena couldn't move. She couldn't speak. She couldn't continue. She saw the client's back, the perfect skin now marred by her mistake. She heard the influencer's sharp intake of breath, then the slow, disbelieving, "What did you do?" The consequences were immediate and financial. The client was furious. He refused to pay the $800 for the session. Demanding a fix was impossible. The design was ruined. Lena had to refund him, and to avoid a lawsuit and a public scandal. She also paid for the laser removal session out of her own pocket. Another $1,200. Gone. She cleaned her station in a daze. The room was silent except for the hum of the sterilization unit. She looked at her hands, the tools of her trade, and they felt like traitors. This is it, she thought, the words a cold echo in her mind. My career is over. He'll tell everyone I'm a fraud. All those hours, all that work, all that debt, destroyed by one stupid, crooked line. For 3 weeks, Lena declared war on her own body. She spent over $3,500 on a state-of-the-art ergonomic tattoo chair. She imported the most precise German-made needle cartridges. Spending another $500, she devoured a 6-week online course on artist biomechanics for $497. She was treating her body like a faulty machine that needed a software update and better parts. But the more she focused on eliminating the possibility of error, the tighter her shoulders became. The pressure to be perfect, now amplified by her new, perfect tools, was a vise grip on her creativity. The problem wasn't in her equipment. It was the terror in her mind, a ghost in the machine she couldn't upgrade away. She sat in her empty booth, the glow of a negative review seared into her retinas. The new chair felt like a throne of judgment. She calculated the numbers, the debt from school, the money spent on this futile fix, the refund for the client. It was a bottomless pit. Her hands, once capable of creating such intricate art, felt like useless weights in her lap. She actually opened a classifieds website and looked up the price of used tattoo machines. The dream was over. It was killed not by one crooked line, but by the thousands of perfect lines she had failed to draw since. Then her phone rang. The number was unfamiliar, but the voice was calm-weathered. It was Mr. Tanaka, the 78-year-old Japanese client whose back was her canvas. Her heart plummeted. He was calling to demand his removal refund, to tell her she'd ruined his skin forever. "Lena," he said, his voice quiet but firm, "I have been thinking of you. Are you well?" The kindness in his voice was a shock. She stammered, I'm so sorry, Mr. Tanaka. About everything?" "My dear," he interrupted gently. "You are trying to create a perfect vase, but the world has enough perfect vases. What it needs is a beautiful crack." That single sentence hung in the air. It didn't make sense. And then, all at once, it made perfect sense. This was her introduction to the first principle: embrace the crack. A flaw is not a failure to be hidden. It is a unique feature to be integrated, a story waiting to be told. In Japan, they practice kintsugi, the art of repairing broken pottery with lacquer dusted with gold. The breakage becomes part of the object's history, and the repair makes it more valuable, not less. The crack isn't the end of the story. It's the most interesting part. Lena didn't just hear this idea, she acted on it. She called Mr. Tanaka back, her voice shaking with a new, fragile energy. "The line," she said. "The one I made by mistake. What if we don't remove it? What if we make it the central branch of a cherry tree? The rogue line becomes the trunk, and we build the blossoms around it." There was a long silence on the other end. Then, a simple, "Hi. Yes. Let us do this." She worked with a focus she hadn't felt in years, but it was a different kind of focus. It wasn't about control, it was about collaboration, with the mistake, with the skin, with the story. The result wasn't a sterile, geometric pattern. It was a living, breathing piece of art. The flaw was now the strong, central element from which an entire world of beauty grew. It was her most original, most talked about piece. It was imperfect, and for the first time, that felt like a victory. But that single victory, as powerful as it was, didn't magically fix everything. Lena was still Lena. The old fears, the ingrained need for perfection, they didn't just vanish. They whispered to her in the quiet moments. So she went back to her rented booth, but she carried a new, fragile idea with her. She decided to build a new portfolio. Not a portfolio of technically flawless, sterile designs, but a collection of custom pieces inspired by her clients' own personal cracks. She started asking a different question. Instead of, "What design do you want?" she began asking, "What story do you want this tattoo to tell?" This led her to a new client, an older woman named Sarah. Sarah brought in a faded photograph of a willow tree. "This was in my grandmother's backyard," she explained, her fingers tracing the image. "It was my sanctuary." But she also brought in a different image, a long, pale scar running down her ribcage, the result of a surgery that had saved her life but had also taken something from her. "I want the tree," Sarah said. "But I don't want to just hide this. I'm tired of hiding it." This was the new problem: how to honor the beauty of the past without erasing the difficult truths of the present. The old Lena would have seen the scar as an obstacle to work around. The new Lena saw it as the foundation. This is where the second principle of Wabi-Sabi entered her life. She called it "Seek the Patina." Patina is not damage. It is evidence. It is the beautiful wear on the handle of a well-loved tool, the subtle cracks in a leather journal, the unique fading of a favorite pair of jeans. It is the proof that an object has been used, loved, and has lived a life. It has earned its character. Lena realized that our lives, our bodies, and our work develop a patina, and we spend our lives trying to scrub it away, to make everything look new and untouched. But the true beauty is in the touch. The true story is in the marks. So, Lena did something radical. She designed the willow tree not beside the scar, but growing directly from it. The scar became the riverbank from which the tree's roots drew strength. The lines of the bark subtly echoed the line of the scar, integrating it into the very fabric of the artwork. It wasn't a cover-up, it was an integration. It was a testament to resilience. She started documenting this new approach. She created a social media page dedicated to this philosophy. She didn't just post fresh, shiny photos of her tattoos right after they were done. She started posting pictures sent to her by clients weeks or months later, when the tattoos had fully healed and settled into the skin. She celebrated the way the lines softened, how the colors muted, how the art became a living, breathing part of a person's history. She shared the stories behind the tattoos, the scars, the memories, the losses, the triumphs. She wasn't just selling art, she was curating authenticity. The response was not just positive, it was exponential. In 2 months, her follower count exploded. It grew from 1,000 to 25,000. Her booking requests tripled. People weren't just asking for a tattoo, they were asking to have their stories told. They trusted her with their vulnerabilities. The financial tide finally turned. The relentless saving, the 14-hour days, it all culminated in one moment. Lena transferred the final $5,000 into her savings account. She had the deposit for her own studio. We see her 3 months after the cherry tree, standing in a raw, empty space, 4 white walls and concrete floors. She's with a real estate agent signing a preliminary lease. This is progress. This is visible, tangible success. But then the agent leaves, and she is alone in the silence of the vast, empty room. The old fear, the one that had been her constant companion for years, slithers back in. It whispered, "This is a fluke. People will get bored of imperfect tattoos. You are not a real artist. You are a therapist with a needle. The moment you open these doors, they will realize you are a fraud." She had the space, she had the clients, but she didn't yet have the unshakable belief. The victory felt fragile, like it could be shattered by a single, harsh word, and that word was coming. For 2 weeks, the studio was silent. Lena didn't post. She canceled appointments, citing a family emergency. The four walls of her soon-to-be studio, which had felt so full of potential, now felt like a prison. She reread the comments, the articles, the podcast transcript. A trendy excuse for poor technique. The words were a needle, and her confidence was a balloon. She was deflated. She spent $500 on a new set of technical drawing manuals, trying to relearn the correct way. But the lines felt dead on the page. The old, familiar anxiety was a physical weight on her chest, tightening her shoulders, whispering the old script. Has right. Who was I kidding? This was just a gimmick. You can't build a real career on being good enough. You need to be the best. The moment of choice came on a Tuesday morning. She had a consultation with a new client, her first since the criticism erupted. The woman wanted a small, perfect, geometric tattoo. The old Lena would have spent hours drafting immaculate designs. The new, wounded Lena was ready to give her exactly that, to retreat to the safety of technical perfection, to prove the critics wrong by becoming flawless again. She opened her sketchbook to begin the technically perfect design. But her hand froze. It felt like a betrayal. It felt like going back to a prison cell after tasting freedom. That's when she made her choice. She wouldn't fight the critic. She wouldn't try to prove him wrong. She would simply be what she had become. She opened her camera, not her sketchbook. Principle 3I: let go, let live. This is the final surrender. Wabi-Sabi is not about controlled imperfection. It's about accepting that you are not in control. A master gardener doesn't force the wildflower to grow in a straight line. They appreciate the unique curve of its stem as it reaches for the sun. Lena recorded a 3-minute video. Her face was pale, she had no makeup on, and she spoke quietly to the camera. A well-known artist recently said my work is a participation trophy, she began. And you know what? He's not entirely wrong. My technique isn't the most perfect. My lines can waver, but a trophy is just an object. What I'm offering isn't an object. It's a conversation. It's a story written on skin, and stories are messy. They have plot holes and unexpected twists. I am letting go of the need to be the best technician, and I am choosing to be a true storyteller. I am letting my work and my career simply live. She didn't defend, she explained. And then she posted it. In that act of public surrender, she understood something fundamental. Her value was not in the external validation of being called the best, but in the internal peace of being authentic. By releasing her grip on the outcome, on her reputation, on the critics' opinions, she had finally found her true voice. The war was over because she had laid down her weapons, and with the battle gone, only the art remained. 1 year later, the transformation was not just internal, it was visible in every part of Lena's world. She opened the Golden Crack Studio, a space filled with natural light and the quiet hum of creation. In its first year, it became a destination for those tired of sterile perfection. That single year allowed her to pay off the entire $65,000 of art school debt. She now works a fulfilling 5-day week, commands a waiting list of 3 months, and earns 3 times her previous income. The chronic back pain that once seized her career is now a distant echo, its frequency and intensity vastly reduced without the constant, crushing weight of perfectionism. One afternoon, a young woman named Sarah walks into the studio, her knuckles white as she clutches her phone. She's brought a folder of reference images, each one a geometrically perfect, symmetrical design. I need it to be exact, she says, her voice tight with anxiety. This is the same precipice Lena once stood upon, but this time the outcome is different. Lena doesn't reach for a ruler. Instead, she gently closes the folder and slides her own portfolio across the table. It's not a collection of flawless designs, but a tapestry of stories, a scar integrated into a phoenix's wing, a stretch mark transformed into a river delta, a birthmark made the center of a celestial constellation. She tells Sarah the story of the rogue line and the cherry tree. As she speaks, she watches the tension drain from Sarah's shoulders. The client takes a deep breath, and instead of pointing to a perfect design, she begins to share a story about a personal loss and the resilience she found in its wake. At the end of the session, looking at the custom design now gracing her skin, a design that incorporates a small, old scar she'd always hidden, Sarah is quiet. "Can I ask you something?" she says, her voice soft. "How did you become so successful by being not perfect?" Lena smiles, a genuine, effortless smile. "I didn't," she replies. "I became successful when I stopped trying to be perfect and started trying to be true." So, how can you apply this? The system is simple. First, embrace the crack. Identify one flaw or insecurity you fight against and brainstorm one way to accept it, or even make it a central part of your story. Second, seek the patina. Look at an old object you love, a coffee mug, a pair of shoes, and appreciate the scars it has earned. Now, do the same for yourself. Third, let go, let live. Choose one thing today you will not try to control perfectly. A work project, a conversation, a meal. Participate, but release the outcome. Ask yourself these 3 questions. 1. Where in my life am I exhausting myself by chasing perfection? 2. What is one crack in my life that I could start treating as a feature, not a bug? 3. What could I create or start if good enough was the goal? Your first step. Tomorrow morning, look at yourself in the mirror. Find one thing you usually criticize. Then say it out loud. This is part of my story, and my story is beautiful. Your life is not a museum piece waiting to be judged. It is a living, breathing, imperfect work of art. Stop trying to polish out the cracks. Start filling them with gold. If this story showed you a different way, I'd love to hear in the comments what your crack is, the one you're ready to embrace. And if you want more ways to find beauty in the real world, hit that subscribe button.